Hi everyone, my name is Ashley Wong. I'm currently a senior at the Elliott School of International Affairs. This will actually be my last GW class, so I'll be graduating fall of this year. My regional concentration is on Asia, so I've taken a plethora of classes about this area, but mainly focusing on South Asia and East Asia. So this class will be fairly interesting and give me a chance to broaden my knowledge. I studied abroad in Hong Kong. When I was there, I got an amazing opportunity to travel to different Southeast Asian countries such as Cambodia, Singapore, and Vietnam. They were just so unlike any other place that I've been, and the culture is so unique. I intern at Human Rights First, focusing on the Asia region, so always feel free to reach out to me, and I would just love to learn more. So I chose the Komodo dragon, also known as the Komodo monitor. They are defined as a species of lizard found in the Indonesian islands that can grow up to 10 feet and weigh 330 pounds. They're carnivores and sometimes even cannibals and can consume 80% of their body weight in one sitting. They have an average lifespan to up to 30 years. My definition of these species is that they're the largest species of lizard and the closest living relatives to dinosaurs that dominate every ecosystem in which they live in, even eating humans. So I became interested in this animal after hearing about the infamous attacks, the first one of an 8-year-old boy that unfortunately died on Komodo Island, another of the stranded scuba divers that were found on Rinca Island having to fight off the Komodo dragons for 2 nights before locals found them. And Sharon Stone, a famous Hollywood actress's husband, was even attacked at the LA Zoo during a VIP visit. So, looking at the history of Komodo dragons, they started off as a genus called Varanus, originating in Asia 40 million years ago, that migrated to Australia. There, they evolved due to the absence of competing carnivores. 15 million years ago, a collision between Australia and Southeast Asia allowed them to move into Indonesia, extending their range as far east as Timor. They were discovered by Europeans in 1910, but have existed on the Flores Island in Indonesia for at least 900,000 years. The dramatic lowering of sea levels during the last glacial period uncovered extensive stretches of continental shelf that the Komodos had colonized, but then they became isolated when sea levels rose again. Fossils found in Eurasia indicated that they thrived prior to climate change. This extinct Pliocene species, similar to Komodos, fared well in environments of competition with other carnivores. Now, looking at the distribution of Komodo dragons, they thrive in the harsh climate of Indonesia's Lesser Sunda Islands. This includes Flores, Komodo, Rinca, Padar, and Gili Montang. They prefer to stay close to the valleys in which they were hatched, but they also like to explore the tropical forests of the islands and can walk up to 7 miles a day. The Komodo National Park protects 6,000 wildlife population split amongst the islands. 1,700 in Komodo, 1,300 in Rinca, 100 in Gili Montang, and 2,000 in Flores. They have a vulnerable status as illegal trading still occurs. The most recent trade attempt was in March 2019, when Indonesian police in East Java found a criminal network smuggling 41 young Komodos out of Indonesia to Singapore for up to $35,000 each. Volcanic activity, earthquakes, loss of habitat, fire, and poaching still make this species very vulnerable. Populations on larger islands remain stable while smaller islands diminish due to diminishing prey available. They are a huge sought-after zoo attraction, but are rare due to susceptibility to infection and parasitic disease after taken from the wild, and do not readily reproduce in captivity. There are currently 35 North American, 13 European, 1 Singaporean, 2 African, and 2 Australian institutions that house Komodo dragons. Even DC housed one for 2 years. There are several uses for the Komodo dragon, the most important being an ecotourism draw. Tourists are vital to conservation efforts, as their economic boost provides incentives to locals to protect the species. Komodo Island made 2.25 million USD in entrance fees in 2018 alone. The Indonesian government has a goal of 20 million tourist visits in 2019, 5 million more than the previous year. But local officials and conservationists warn that over-tourism could threaten the park's diverse wildlife and already vulnerable species. A medical use is that the blood of Komodo dragons contain antimicrobial properties. This blood helps them resist toxic bacteria and can be used to develop new drugs to counter antibiotic resistance. Scientists are also conducting studies on how they're able to have strains of lethal bacteria living on their saliva. Their saliva contains a strain of venom that can paralyze the prey even after it gets away. For ecosystem maintenance, they are the top predator, an apex predator to be exact, and one of the largest animals in their ecosystem. Their job is to scavenge and remove dead animals from their landscape. The Komodo dragon is especially symbolic to the country of Indonesia, its tourism page even going to say that it represents the identity of the Indonesian people as a national symbol and animal. One of the main myths is Putri Naga, also known as the Dragon Princess of Komodo. The story goes that the leader of Komodo Island village's wife dies after giving birth to a son and a Komodo dragon daughter. The two kids have a fairly normal childhood, but the daughter is soon ostracized by the community for her wildlife appearance. She grows up and leaves the village in adulthood. On a hunting trip, her brother nearly kills a Komodo dragon, but after seeing the ghost of his mother telling him, "Would you kill this Komodo dragon if she was your sister?" he decides not to. Then, when he becomes the new leader, he teaches all the villagers to coexist with the dragons and treat them as their own family members. Sailors would often tell each other warning stories about the dragons, saying, "Be quiet, don't smell a fish or they'll swallow you whole." European imagery depicted them as these sea dragons and monsters that would pull fishermen out of their boats. The dragons also have a symbiotic relationship with the locals. The 1100 residents of Kampong Komodo village on Komodo Island coexist with 1200 Komodo dragons. Since they are seen as ancestors of the locals, they are treated with the utmost respect. These bougie fishermen make a living out of selling wood carvings to tourists of the Komodo dragons, which they called auras. The villagers are armed with fork-shaped sticks often that are widely available, and even practice aggressive postures such as barking or stomping on the ground to assert their dominance against the dragons. The mainly Muslim inhabitants do not share the dragon's diet, not eating the pigs that are a staple and refraining from hunting deer and water buffalo, leaving dragons with abundant prey to feed on.